everyone. Welcome to episode 52 of Just Lying Around, Detroit Lions podcast presented by the World of Football. I'm your host, Kyle Sutherland, and I'm joined by my co-host and brother-in-law, Adam Snow. Adam, happy New Year's Eve. See, you told me you're making fried pizzas. I'll be expecting a bunch here, maybe today or tomorrow.
Well,
Other than that, Lions won versus the 49ers. How are you feeling after that win there?
well, I'm a little more excited than you sound. You just sound like we lost the game yesterday, but
Tired.
I don't blame you. It was a late night, but Lions get the W. That's all that matters. We'll probably talk about all the talk that was surrounding. Should they sit guys? This game doesn't matter. Blah blah blah. That whole narrative that was going into this game, but I think there's still some concerns, and I'm sure we'll talk about that too. But the Lions pulled the reverse of what happened in the NFC Championship game. They had a crappy first half, played a pretty darn good second half. So I can't be too mad when you get the win. That's all that I care about. And nobody got hurt.
Yeah, that we know of.
That we know of. 2 weeks in a row.
We're going to go over the Lions Week 17 win against the San Francisco 49ers. Then look ahead at the big matchup against the Minnesota Vikings for next Sunday, or this Sunday, primetime, 8:20 at night. So we had Lions 40, 49ers 34. Overall, like you said, Lions couldn't really do anything in the first half. They kind of stuck with the 49ers, but it seemed like the second half, things turned around and the Lions kind of dominated the second half there. So stats real quick, Jared Goff, 26 of 34, 303 yards, 3 touchdowns. No water bottle celebration in the locker room, though. I was disappointed on that one. Jahmyr Gibbs, 18 carries for 117 yards, 6.5 average per carry, 1 touchdown, 4 receptions for 46 yards. Jameson Williams, 5 receptions for 78 yards, 15.6 average, 1 touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8 receptions for 60 yards, 7.5 average, 1 touchdown. And Sam Laporta, 6 receptions, 64 yards, 10.7 average per catch, and 1 touchdown. 49ers, Brock Purdy, 27 to 35 for 377 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 3 carries for 12 yards, and 1 touchdown on the ground there. Isaac Guerrero, that's a tough name to say.
Guerrero?
Yeah, 9 carries for 34 yards, 3.8 average per carry. And their rookie all-star, Ricky Parcell, 8 receptions for 141 yards, 17.6 average per catch, and 1 touchdown. So I think that's a name to look out for in the future here for the 49ers. Total yards, Lions, 439 yards. 49ers, 475 yards. Time of possession, Lions, 34 minutes and 52 seconds. And 49ers, 25 minutes and 8 seconds. So let's do the bad first, then the good for a second. So we're gonna jump into the defensive side. So the defense first half seemed like the 49ers could do anything they want, throw over the middle, throw wherever they feel like, but the Lions could not stop anything. Linebacker core, they got Jalen Reeves-Maven back. He kind of played, I think they started up soft early, then kept him out on the field later on during the game, kind of get his legs under him. But I think next week they need to get Anzalone Tuesday or today, get him in the office and tell him, hey, we need you back for the Vikings because they need that linebacker help. Because a lot of these linebackers yesterday were getting torched in the secondary.
I agree with that.
And then, yeah, second half, kind of Lions kind of took control of the game. Kirby, Joseph capitalized on 2 interceptions. They got a couple quarterback sacks with help. Kind of threw Brock Purdy off his game. Brock Purdy ended up having to leave the game because he couldn't. I think he pinched a nerve, whatever. But the astronaut, what's his name for the backup for the 49ers?
Oh, Dobbs.
Yeah, Romeo Dobbs kind of took over. I mean, even he seemed pretty efficient as well, running in for a touchdown there. So, yeah, overall, this defense is kind of, I wouldn't say falling apart, but they're kind of struggling big time here. Uh, so yeah, 5 of 8, third down efficiency allowed, but 49ers ended up 1-1 on fourth down. They had 2 sacks and 0 punts for the defense on the Lions side. So yeah, overall defense did not play a really good game this game here, which I thought with the 49ers offensive line with all those backups they had, people off the practice squad, I thought at least Lions would have had more pressure, um, maybe a few more sacks here, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't really seem impressed with that defensive line there.
I think you got to give credit to Kyle Shanahan. I mean, it doesn't matter who he's got on that offensive side of the ball. It seems like he can plug in about anybody, and they're going to come and play. Kind of like the Lions' offense has kind of been. But I feel like the defense, it was a rough first half. I think guys were just, I mean, there was plays where the Niners just faked out the whole defense. You saw the whole defense shift to one side, and the Niners went the other direction. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I don't know why that keeps happening or why that would happen to that defense. You think they'd be a little smarter about it. They got a bad break a couple times. Like, there's the one play where, who was it? Was it Pearsall that went deep? And it was two Lions guys ran into each other, which kind of opened that up. So that doesn't happen. Maybe it's a more contested catch. Maybe it doesn't even happen. Uh, but I don't know. I feel like getting Anzalone back would be a big help in a game where uh, you know neither team punted. Both teams. There were 10 touchdowns in this game with 0 punts. That's like one of the first times I think in NFL history, the first time in a long time that's ever happened. So neither defense could do anything. And it did come down to Brock Purdy making 2 bad mistakes, and the Lions unfortunately capitalized on. And Jake Moody, who, I mean, I wanted Jake Moody to be a Lion when he was in the draft coming out of Michigan. I mean, you don't know. I mean, I know Jake's dad a little bit. I mean, so a little biased there. I mean, I felt bad for Jake during the game. There were some bad memes after the game, too. Like, come on, guys. Like, he's going to be a good kicker. He just, it was one of those nights. I know he's had a rough patch, too, this season. You just got to give the guy time. Because they all can't be Jake Bates, on the sideline there doing whatever it was he was doing that the TV cameras caught, and then he got memed. But I think the defense hopefully will tighten up next week. But I look at the way you were looking at the Niners, thinking like, oh, the offensive line for the Niners should be easy to penetrate, and their defense has got a bunch of holes, so we should move the ball on it. You got it half right. I feel like teams look at the Lions like that too, like, oh, that defense is so banged up, we're going to move it on them, and they might move it a little bit, but I feel like Aaron Glenn still has enough juice in there, like, hey, we might allow a couple touchdowns, but when it counts and when it comes down to it, we will make plays. Like, I'm not worried about that. And the Lions got guys who can make plays. What they need to stop doing on both sides of the ball, between Branch, between Tyrion Arnold, and between Jameson Williams, y'all got to stop committing the dumb penalties. You got to stop committing the dumb penalties. It has hurt our team. It has kept drives going. There's a couple times where we probably could have stopped a Niner drive because, but then it kept alive by a bad dumb penalty. Like, what are we doing, fellas? Like, I don't know. Just I wish they'd play smarter. They're letting their emotions get to them, and maybe that's just the way Dan Campbell and that team operates. Like they run high on emotion and just toughness, and sometimes it just can be a bad combination in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, speaking of dumb penalties, they had one by Branch. I don't know if he's just too juiced up, like firing like just heat of the moment sort of thing. But the other one, I don't think it would be called that bad because the way Juwan Jennings held down um, Terry on
Tyrion.
the back of the end zone and Kirby Joseph coming over and shoving him off the play. Arnold, like, I think if you ask anyone, they say, yeah, whatever. I'd do that too in a heartbeat. So
Oh yeah, that type of play. But I think with the Brian Branch play, because they were on the ground and I forget the receiver. He tried to like put his hand in Kirby's
yeah,
or in his face mask. So I get it. Like, hey, yo, dude, like get like. But then you get caught by the ref. Like, you just got to play a little smarter. Like, it stinks. There was a couple times I feel like that happened where a Niners guy got away with something. Lions got away with a bad face mask on that sack Branch had too.
oh yeah,
But I mean, the refs aren't going to catch everything, and until the NFL institutes a replay system to kind of catch some of that stuff, you got to get over it. It's going to happen. So
yeah,
you get away with it, and it's going to happen to you. So they just got to play smarter.
yeah. So hopefully they'll be able to turn around next game here against the Vikings because that we'll talk more of that when that we get to that point. But let's jump to the offensive side. I want to point out Gibbs, JMO, St. Brown, Laporta, Goff, um, pretty much even our the other running back Reynolds. I mean,
Craig
they all
Reynolds was
played a
great.
great game
He
this
did.
game. They
He might as
kept
well have
up,
been David Montgomery out there the way he was kind of running.
yeah, kept up with the 49 offense, scoring uh, score for score. They only had that one fourth down conversion they failed on, which turned the ball over. But yeah, just point out like Gibbs 6.5 yards a carry, like that's big time success there. Um, so yeah, even when Monty out, Gibbs taking over, still holding the fort down. Um, I don't I don't think Monty's going to be back for the Vikings game, but I think he'll be back once the playoff starts.
I wouldn't rush Monty back for that game. I mean, as much as we would like him, I think Craig Reynolds does a sufficient job. Craig Reynolds, you plug him in, he will fill in that role nicely. Give Jameer some plays off. Put in Reynolds. Reynolds also catches the ball out of the backfield very well, so I'm not worried about rushing Monty back. I think Craig Reynolds is an underutilized running back, and the fact we haven't even seen Baki and Jefferson got in, like, the heck are we doing giving it to Jefferson? Haven't been impressed with Jefferson at all. Uh, but he might be the one thing about the offense I was like, nope, thumbs down. That
Oh,
Jefferson
you don't
running back.
like Jefferson? I thought he did all right.
Nope, I did not think he did all right at all.
Really?
It doesn't help that his number looks a little bit like Jameer Gibbs because he wears 28, Gibbs wears 26.
Oh, yeah.
And I see him out there, I'm like, is that 26 or 28? I couldn't tell. And then when he got tackled for a loss, I was like, nope, that was 28. Figured that much. So, I don't know. I would rather see Baki out there and Reynolds out there before I would see Jefferson out there. Why he's even on this roster, I'm sorry. I don't get it. But we're here to talk about the good. Lions did a
Yeah.
lot of good on offense this week, including Kyle. I don't see this in your notes, but I want to bring up the Lions are now one of two teams ever to have 4 players with at least 1,000 scrimmage yards and
Yeah, I
7
did.
touchdowns in a season in NFL history.
If you
David
scroll
Montgomery,
down,
Jameer Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jameson Williams all crossed that 1,000-yard threshold mark. If it was in your notes, I apologize, but I wanted to get it
yeah,
out of the way now.
jumping ahead there.
Okay, I just wanted to bring it up. I like that stat.
Yeah, we'll get to those stats here one sec.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, just Glasgow was back in the left guard position. The only downside was Nick Bosa causing havoc for the offensive line, getting in the backfield a lot. I think he won a couple times on Sewell and Decker. So yeah, someone like Bosa, that's kind of hard to uh, defend against. I don't know. I felt like if Mahogany was out there, like it might have been a little better because they showed a couple plays last week when he was out there, just blowing guys out of the water, um, guarding against someone with Decker, then turn around, um, hitting someone on Frank Ragno's side. leveling them to the ground. So I don't know. That's kind of something they got to think about next season there.
Maybe. I just not that I'm saying that the Vikings have a bad pass rush, but I feel like their pass rush isn't anywhere near the level of a Niners, or at least they don't have a guy like Bosa. Bosa was something else, but I mean, he won some. I feel like Decker and Sewell won some. It was kind of a 50-50, but Bosa's a heck of a player. So I mean, I ain't gonna fault Sewell for even letting him by once. I don't know if he technically allowed a sack or not on his side of the ball to keep his record clean, but I thought for the most part the offensive line, there were a few bad plays that got blew up, but I think the offensive line did what they needed to do. They created holes. Look how many times Jahmyr Gibbs would just, you know, make a play. I mean, there was even a couple times where the offensive line got pushed back a little bit and Gibbs had to make a play. He had like one of the most beautiful 3-yard runs I've ever seen because he had to run about 20 yards in the backfield just to get that 3 yards. So,
Yeah. Anything more you want to add about the offensive side?
other than, and I'm sure you'll talk about more in some of your notes as I skim, but Ben Johnson again with the trick plays, the hook and ladder play again for the Lions, getting a touchdown. Like the Lions now have to have two of the best plays all season long. Those two hook and ladder touchdowns this season. The one against Arizona, now this one. It's awesome. I'm surprised teams don't do it more. But the Lions seem like they've perfected it almost. And those guys just trust each other so much. Like Jameson, it's unselfish football. And Amon-Ra, they said it during the broadcast, might be the best thing they said all broadcast, is how Amon-Ra is the most diva-less receiver or whatever in the National Football League. And he showed you why. I mean, Amon-Ra could have great stats, he could have mediocre stats or no stats. He will play his butt off every single play unselfishly. And the team did great, I think, on offense. And then a shout out to Allen Robinson II. Heck of a 20-something yard catch he had
Yeah.
on the sideline. I mean, you don't hear his name a whole lot, but when you're called upon in this offense, guys will make plays unless your name is Jefferson.
Yeah, but speaking of trick plays, like 49ers were trying a couple of those plays, but didn't really work out for them.
How often do you see that happen, though? Like, I know the Niners have done trick plays before, but how many times have we seen like a team go up against the Lions and like, oh, the Lions ran a trick play, so we better run a trick play, and then it just blows up in their face like 9 times out of 10 usually. Like, I mean, they had a couple plays I think early on where they could have gotten some yardage, like, but the Lions were able to sniff out a couple of them. But and then they even sniffed out one of the Lions. I think Jameson was trying to throw the ball. Right? Was that this game? He was trying to throw the ball, and
Yeah, I don't know if he was trying to throw the ball or trying to run it, but they had, I think, Laporta wide open and down the field, so
yeah,
they might have tried having Jamison Williams throw that ball.
yeah. So I mean, the Lions, they're not going to get all of them, but what was that, like 3 out of the 4 trick plays? I feel like they ran, they nailed it. So
Yeah. So notes from this game: Lions remain undefeated on the road, 8-0 this season. I think it's the first time in their uh, franchise history.
yeah,
Again, no one was hurt that we know of, which is good. We already talked about the dumb penalties by a few players on the team. Hopefully, they can clean that stuff up.
they better.
Um, so, yeah, let's talk about overall season performance real quick. A lot of stats came out last night. Dan Campbell during primetime games is 10-2. Uh, like you said, first team in NFL history to have 4 players over 1,000 scrimmage yards. And interesting fact here: Jake Pates with the most points scored in a season in franchise history, passing the great Jason Hanson, which was 134 points in 2012. It seems like a lot of points there.
That's a lot of points.
And then what else? We got 20 plus points in 14 straight games, single season franchise record. And big shout out to Kirby Joseph, 16 career interceptions and 9 interceptions, and a pick six, passing Jack Christensen, 1957, and Jimmy Allen, 1981. So a lot of
Yeah,
great overall season performances so far.
And so far, and we're gonna dock probably stuff on our podcast this week in the world of football. After this is done recording, I'm gonna go meet up with Dad. We're gonna get that recorded. But the 17 game schedule kind of threw off a lot of the season stats for me. Like now that we have the extra game, and even back then they were playing 14 games in some of these scenarios. For some of these records, so you got to put an asterisk next to some of this stuff. But I liked it by game 17 or 16 games technically for Jake Bates in the season. He beat Jason Hanson's record. I feel like that's a little more legitimate, but because he got it done by game 16. Yeah, he'll have game 17 to kind of pad that stat now for future Lions records. But like Saquon Barkley hitting 2,000 yards in 17 games for the Eagles, pretty impressive. If he breaks the record next week, Saquon Barkley, that is, it ain't gonna mean a whole lot to me because they've had the one extra game.
Yeah.
But I mean, still impressive. Don't get me wrong. But I just wanted to throw that little thing out there. But I'll let you continue.
Yeah. So let's jump into a Week 18 preview. Big matchup here. Not only for the division, number one and the number one seed here. So yeah, everything's right on the line, especially with both teams being 14-2. Whoever would have thought of that? Like that's just
Right.
nuts.
So guess talking about this game, do you think the Lions should have rested guys like the narrative was going into that Niners game? Because that Niners game literally didn't mean anything. The Lions, all they had to do was win next week against Minnesota, and they had it all locked up. It didn't matter what happened last night. But obviously Dan Campbell came out and said we're going to the West Coast and we're going to bring all our guys. Like we're going to play like it, like we need to. And as much as I would have been like, I wouldn't hate it if they sat some guys for a week or only played the first half and then sat them, no matter what the scenario. Like you get some other guys some reps out there. You get Hendon Hooker some reps. You let Amon-Ra and Gibbs just and Laporte and all those guys just sit on the bench for a while. I wouldn't have hated it, but I get Dan Campbell's mentality. Like a week off in the NFL, while it's great for the body, it can be tough on the mental aspect of the game. I think guys, depending on the team, the Chiefs seem to be the exception when they get time off. They seem to come back and can pick up right where they left off. Other teams seem sluggish coming out of buys a lot of the times. So I feel like if the Lions had taken time off, I wonder if it would have actually hurt them going into next week. Despite as rough as that defense looked, I think the defense needed that experience during that Niners game to really get ready for what the Vikings are going to bring on Sunday.
Yeah, Dan Campbell was asked during his press conference about that, like resting players. Like he said, it wouldn't be fair to the backups because they all week, last week they practiced with reps with their first stringers, not with their second or third stringers. So resting people, throwing in your backups, not practice all week, not getting those reps in would kind of be unfair for the backups. And like you can only bring so many people to the game. Like you can only rest so many people. It wouldn't be fair to rest one guy and have another guy play. So yeah, Dan Campbell said um, if we're gonna start or practice with our first stringers, we're gonna play our first stringers. Like I believe if the Lions would have gotten ahead by a lot early, he would have sat a couple people. But yeah, I think what Dan Campbell said, I agree with.
Okay.
So yeah, Sunday, January 5th, 8:20 p.m. Another primetime game at Lions Field. Um, let's not have what Jordan Addison said and have the Viking fans show up. If you're a Lions fan, don't sell your tickets. Show up to this game because we're gonna need all the help we can get, especially with the defensive side for the Lions, stopping that Vikings offense. We're talking about Aaron Jones, Hawkinson, Addison, Jameer or Jefferson. Like they got some high-powered players, so it's going to be really tough for the Lions to stop there.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's going to be a tough game.
yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Kyle, as I always do, but you know, I think it's going to be a tough, tall order. This Vikings team, Sam Darnold playing out of his mind, kind of played his way into the MVP talk right now. Uh, I mean, but Jared Goff, I think, has quietly also put up MVP stuff. I mean, ever since the 5 interception game, people have kind of written Jared Goff off. But I look at Goff's numbers compared to Sam Darnold's, like they're comparable. Goff's got a few, couple hundred more yards, extra touchdown, a little higher passer rating. But these two teams are 14-2. These are two very good teams. So it's going to be something going into this week. And the fact that one of these teams is going to be the 5 seed at 14-3 is crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild. Especially, it sounds like whoever loses this game is gonna have to travel on the road to Philadelphia. Like that's gonna be a tough environment to play in there.
Well, maybe we'll see how the bracket folds up. But like if the 5 seed is going to travel to 4, so whatever division champ that ends up being, whether it's the Rams or the Buccaneers, you got a road game. And while if the Lions lose this game, I don't think they will. To go on the road to one of those two places is manageable. I think it'll be a little tougher to go to Los Angeles than it would be to go to Tampa. But I like Detroit's chances against either of those teams if that were to happen. But Minnesota could also do the same thing. I think the Lions and Vikings are so mirror images of each other that, while losing would suck, you lose the division, you lose the number 1 seed. It's not all doom and gloom. I feel like there's still a path for either of these two teams to make it to a Super Bowl. If it comes down to you have to take that 5 seed.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes. Besides Angeloni, I hope he comes back for this game because we really need his help. I don't know if they can just put a cast around his hand and arm to help out with his injury. But yeah, besides him, the only person I can think of coming off of injured reserve to kind of help us out would be their other wide receiver, kick returner.
Khalif Raymond.
What's his name?
Khalif Raymond?
Khalif Raymond, yep. So yeah, his clock's already started. Hopefully he'll be back as well. But yeah, it'll be an interesting game. I suspect like a high scoring game. Because I believe that Vikings offense is just going to score points on us, and hopefully we can keep up with them, and hopefully steal a couple possessions because Sam Darnold likes to throw 50-50 balls here or there, so hopefully we can capitalize on that as well.
Yeah, the Lions need to also play smart with the ball. The Vikings like to take the ball away. I feel like it's going to be a pretty chippy game with so much on the line. This is going to probably be in prime time. Also, the last game of the NFL season, so everybody's probably going to be watching it with the number 1 seed on the line. It has just been manufactured to be one of the greatest NFL regular season games of all time. Final game of the year, NFC North division title on the line. First round bye, number 1 seed on the line. In Detroit's building. Something the Lions have never done, which is, obviously they've never won 13 or 14 games in a regular season before. To win 15 games in a season, which not a whole lot of teams get to do for either team, like somebody's going to be 15 wins. It's crazy. But I just feel like we're going to see some chippiness from the Lions defensive backs to the Vikings wide receivers. I think that's where a majority of it's going to be. The Lions receivers don't usually get too chippy. Jameson might, depending on who's covering him. But I expect to see some flags flying. Tyrion Arnold's going to be picked on probably. We'll see. But hopefully, Branch can keep a cool head, make clean hits. Kirby Joseph, same thing. Just be smart out there and cover those guys. I think there's a plan and a way to minimize Jefferson. But now you got to watch out for Addison and Hawkinson. And the Lions, for the most part, have done pretty decent against guarding those two guys. Jefferson's the one who usually, no matter what you do, that guy's going to get his yards. And that's something we just got to prepare for. I'm not saying a 200-yard game, but Jefferson's going to get over 100 yards receiving. It's probably bound to happen. They're going to take a few shots, too. Sam Darnold's not going to be afraid to take some shots. So it's going to be paramount for the defensive line to get some pressure. The Lions are going to have to scheme up a lot of stuff. I'd like to see some more safety blitzes, corner blitzes, throw the Vikings off because the Vikings are going to do the same thing. They're going to, they're coached very well too. So it'll be a very interesting matchup. A matchup I think that'll be ugly, and I'm sure it'll be in the 30s score wise for both teams. And it'll probably come down to who has the ball last. I hate saying that; it's so cliche, but it's true. It's gonna come down to whoever has the ball last.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. Anything else you want to add?
Nope. I'm excited to see what the injury report looks like going into the game. Who we get back, if we get anybody back. What the Vikings kind of look like. I don't know their injury situation. I think wasn't the running back, didn't he get kind of banged up a little bit? So he's kind of questionable.
Yeah, Aaron Jones. I think the coach came out like the day after and said Aaron Jones should be all right to play. So
yeah, so we'll see. All I know is that Detroit's going to come to play. The defense, hopefully, if they can play better than they did against San Francisco, I'll feel a lot better. Because while they didn't play great against San Francisco, I mean, if you just play a little bit better, you don't have to be the greatest defense in the world. You can allow, like I said, Jefferson's going to get his yards, but if you can, get a few stops, that's all you need. Like 3 stops, 3 or 4 stops, and capitalize on them as an offense. And that as long as the offense also goes out and at least gets points, I think we'll be in good shape. And that home crowd will probably be a factor too.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if Aaron Glenn thought that the front four could kind of get pressure on the 49ers, so he didn't really send any blitzes the first half. But the second half, you kind of saw a little more. So, yeah, Aaron Glenn kind of adjusted on that.
I expect it to be a chippy, like there are going to be a lot of hits. Kyle, this is going to be a black and blue division game.
Hopefully the Lions come out with a win.
We'll see.
All right, let's go ahead and close it out then.
All right, we will do that. All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed listening or watching today's episode and come back for more. Be sure to visit the World of Football's website, www.theworldoffootball.com, for news, links, upcoming events, original articles, videos, and more. If you want to get in touch with us, send an email to info@theworldoffootball.com, or you can connect with us by liking the World of Football's Facebook page, the X account, or the Instagram page. All of those are at TWOF Kalamazoo, or you can find the links down in the episode description. Be sure to check out our flagship podcast, This Week in the World of Football, which I'm about to leave to go record here in a little bit, which drops new episodes every Tuesday, and you can find that in the podcast feed or on this YouTube channel where you're watching this one. Again, links are down in the description below. Happy New Year, everybody. Or New Year's Eve, technically.
Yep, happy New Year's Eve. That's it for this week. Go Lions. I should have a preview podcast probably out Friday or Saturday. So be on the lookout for that. Until then, go Lions, and we'll see you on the next episode. And thanks for watching.
See you in 2025.
Yep.